Defense Department computer systems contain vast amounts of sensitive data. And even though the information isn't classified, it can still be vulnerable to cyber attacks. The Government Accountability Office studied how well protected those systems are. Jennifer Franks is the Director of Information Technology and Cybersecurity at the GAO. Jennifer, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Can you explain why the GAO looked at controlled unclassified systems and give us some examples of why it's important to protect them?
Absolutely. So the report itself describes the status of DoD components implementation of select CUI cybersecurity requirements. And then we look at the actions taken by the DoD Office of the Chief Information Officer to address some of the security of their CUI systems. And why we did this is because under the fiscal year 2021 NDAA, there was a provision in place for DoD to submit a report to Congress to identify whether each of their components were actually able to process, store, transmit, just overall manage their CUI systems and meet the same security control standards that they were holding their contractors to do. And because of this, we conducted the review, and once they submitted their report in June of last year, we then did just an overview of what their report was and what it did provide to Congress. And then we looked at how they were aligning the cybersecurity requirements in their department, as well as applying that same standard to the contractors with that CMMC framework.
And this has actually happened. I mean, defense systems that were unclassified but sensitive have been hacked in the past.
Yes, absolutely. And we only give a couple examples in the report that show that hacks do happen, and they have recently, as of 2019 and 2020, happened in the Department of Defense. And they cause some of the concerns of not being able to perform the necessary mission-related requirements for a substantial amount of time. One of the incidents actually impacted about 4,000 civilian and military personnel, and they were unable to do their work for about 11 days while cybersecurity experts had to reconfigure their network so that they would mitigate and correct some of those actions from that actual hack.
You know, the Defense Department requires 100% compliance, which is understandable. How far off are they on implementing the requirements that they have?
Good question. And at the time of our review, when we were still working actively month to month with the agency, they were about 80% already established with meeting the requirements. So it was only roughly about 20% that they still had left to accomplish. And since that March date has now passed, we do know that they did not meet 100% compliance. But the positive of the story is here that they are actively engaged with that Department of Defense's Chief Information Officer, and they're working towards achieving that compliance. And each of the components are a little bit further away than others, but what they're able to do here is establish plans of action and milestones or POEMs, and they're actually able to then assess what the risk is of their environment and any of the cybersecurity measures that will be needed to further enhance some protections. They're able to work with that DoD CIO office to make sure that those enhancements are adequately aligned and implemented in their various environments.
But what's the issue here, Jennifer? I mean, why aren't all the components fully compliant? This is cybersecurity. I mean, this could be catastrophic.
Could be catastrophic. And the biggest issue here is it's just how they've been assessed. And some of the agency's components could be a lot more advanced. It could have everything to do with their mission. The Army, as we note in our report, is a little bit more aggressive and further along with implementing some of these requirements, where the Defense Health Agency is not. And it has nothing to do with the fact that they may not have adequate personnel in place or perhaps even the right resources, but because of the maturity of their cybersecurity environment and some of the mission-related needs, the Army may be able to take advantage of some of the opportunities a lot faster. a lot. And because of the missions they serve, they may have to do something a little bit sooner in order to protect the thousands and thousands of personnel that they do serve. So it's one of those things where they just need a little bit more time. They may need some additional resources, and that's looking at the money, that's looking at personnel, trained cyber talent to assess and assist, but it's not necessarily a lack of not trying.
Do you think, Jennifer, from your perspective, that the Defense Department really has the appropriate level of urgency when it comes to cybersecurity?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely saw this in our review, and we saw this when we were talking with the agency officials, and the urgency is there. And what's helping the Department of Defense at this time is they've been actively engaged with their department's CIO office and that Chief Information Security Officer as well. And as they're actively engaged with those senior level personnel, they're able to share some of the cybersecurity concerns they have and look at the measures that would have them to be a little bit more sustainable and hold their own department components accountable for meeting the same commensurate measures that they have the defense contractors to uphold.
All right.
So it's one of those things where they're actively engaged.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer, so much for being on the program. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future Government Matters interviews.